Hello, everyone. I am Anita Newby, and welcome back to Thumbcast. So excited that you have joined us once again for our Coastline Conversations, right? And I have someone special here with me today. I'm not with my normal podcast partner, Andrew. He couldn't be here today, but he will be with us next time. But I'm so excited to have somebody sitting in that I think I'm going to have some fabulous conversations with. It is none other than Michael Hensley. He is the president and CEO of the Blue Water Area Convention and Visitors Bureau. And so we are going to have lots to talk about, lots to chat about, and lots to share with you today. So welcome, Michael Hensley.
Hi,
Hi,
Anita.
how are you?
Coastline Conversations. I love that.
Isn't it cool?
I love that little tagline. That's awesome.
And I'm happy to have you with us here today.
Yeah.
This is our first time being able to sit down. Just met you not too long ago, but we already have some cool things in common that
Oh, yeah.
I know we can chat about.
Yeah.
But I want to really just get into what it is. Look, before we get into what it is you do, let's get into who you are as a person,
Okay.
because we like to know personalities, right? Where are you originally from?
Yeah.
All of that.
So I kind of have a lengthy story, but I'll keep it to the cliff notes. So
I got a little bit of time. I'm here for you.
Okay.
So.
All right. Cool. So I grew up in Metro Detroit, Warren. Went through, childhood, graduated high school, and then went to Saginaw Valley State University for college. Went up there and studied criminal justice, but halfway through there was a lot of stuff going on just around the world and things like that, and it kind of influenced my career path, and I decided, hey, we're gonna switch course a little bit here. So finished that out, started taking some business classes, and an opportunity came up at Saginaw Valley. Somebody said, hey, listen, there's this company, they're looking for an intern. We kind of think you would be a good fit.
Okay.
Why don't you interview or apply? So I applied. They interviewed me. I ended up getting an internship with the Great Lakes Bay Regional Convention and Visitor Bureau. So from there, it was game over. It was I think it was like a month of doing that work. I was like, this is cool. This is some cool stuff.
Wow.
So spent about 7 years with the Great Lakes Bay CVB. Started managing a visitor center, then moved into group sales, then moved into, marketing, then eventually became the director of marketing.
Wow.
But all along that, as I was growing up as a kid, my family's in the Croswell, Lexington area, right on the coast.
Yep.
So as a kid, it was like every summer we'd spend 3 weeks here and weekends. And like, this is where most of my cherished memories were created, were along the Thumbcoast, right?
Very nice.
So when the opportunity came up and this position became available, I looked at my wife and I was like, hey, I got to apply. Like, this is something that, and she's like, absolutely, right?
Yeah.
You have to, this is perfect. And so we, thought about it, went through, kind of evaluating where we wanted to live and stuff like that, and what the future looks like. So I ended up applying for this role. And in 2023, in November, I started as the president CEO here at the Blue Water Area CVB. So,
oh my goodness.
yeah, it was really kind of a really, really great opportunity. It's one of those things, right? You go through life and you do stuff without even understanding the big picture of things,
Right.
and you have a plan, and you're going to do that plan. In 3 years, you're going to do this. In
Yes.
2 years, and then an opportunity comes along, and like, you have to take it, because
You do.
you just, there's something down deep in your heart that drives you to those areas and
Yeah.
drives you to that work. And I felt that,
Sure.
and went from there. And my wife was really supportive of it, which is great.
Yeah.
And so we ended up moving over here, and now I'm going in fifth gear and doing all this really cool stuff. And it's just really a great moment to kind of sit back and be like, yeah, this is where we're supposed to be.
Okay. You said so many things in that story that
I'm a talker. I
No,
talk a lot. Yeah.
that's why we're here. We have microphones. So what are we supposed to do? I mean,
Yeah,
we could
right.
sing a little bit, but we're here to talk.
You don't want me to do that.
But you said so many things that I just appreciated and thought were just key principles, even just about life and how you manage your path.
Yeah.
Because so many people again, like you said, we have these plans, we have this, okay, I think I'm going to do this in 3 years, I'm going to do this. And we're not good at pivoting.
Yeah.
And when something disrupts or distracts us, and sometimes it's a good distraction, something that should disrupt us or distract us. Sometimes people can be so resistant to if it's not already on their list or not already on their path. And I think what you've talked about is just a magnificent example of, hey, you got to go with your heart. This area where you're back now, it's something that was close to you. And this, I mean, it's like you went in a weird circle. You had a weird path to get back to where your heart is.
Yeah.
And I think one thing that really resonates with me is that it's a passion for you.
Yeah.
And you can hear that in your story. Your heart was drawing you here. So a lot of times people make decisions just based on money, financial reasons, what's convenient, what was in their plan. You had a path of criminal justice.
Yeah.
Man, that's far from what you're doing now,
Yeah.
And for a lot of people that seems strange, that seems weird, but I commend people who are, it's an adventure and it's a risk to take those moments and to take those shifts. So I commend you on that.
Wow, well, thank you.
Yeah. And I just think that's important for people to hear.
Yeah.
Because clearly this is a work, what you're doing now is a work that is that you're passionate about, and that gives you some sense of fulfillment and purpose.
Yeah.
So tell us about, I know everybody is probably aware that convention and visitors bureaus exist.
Yeah.
Right?
You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised, really. Like, I still have to remind my mom and dad what I do for a living, right? Because they, it's not at the forefront of everybody's brain, because a lot of the work that we're doing influences folks to go to a place.
Yes.
We kind of have we have three main pillars in our industry, and especially how we operate at our DMO, Destination Marketing Organization.
DMO.
First is marketing and advertising. That is what we're known for. That's what really is probably 70 or 80% of what we do on a day-to-day basis. We're placing ads, we're doing PR campaigns, we're working with news channels around the state and the country to try to showcase why our area is a premier travel destination.
Sure.
Right? The other pillar is, advocacy. There's always different initiatives and legislative things that happen that are going to affect the visitor economy in our area. So we have to ensure that we are at the forefront of those things to let our membership know, and to let the rest of the visitor economy help understand what the impact of that's going to be long term.
Absolutely.
In that, we're working with elected officials on all levels when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Sure.
And just keeping in touch with them is really the biggest thing. That's the biggest responsibility for the advocacy realm. And then being a resource to them. That's what I tell everybody that I meet with is, listen, I want to be a resource to you. If there's something that comes across your desk, or there's a bill, or there's an initiative, or there's something that you have a question on that's going to directly affect the visitor economy in our area, pick up the phone, give me a call. I'll give you my opinion. We can talk through it. That's my biggest thing, is I just want to be a resource.
Sure.
On the third pillar then is destination development. So in that, we have a handful of different responsibilities, and every DMO, every CVB looks at destination development in a different lens, right?
Okay.
For bigger cities, destination development may be bricks and mortar, building stadiums or building big attraction things. We've certainly had a hand in that type of stuff as well. But destination development also looks at, hey, what does this area need, and who's going to be the person to assess it, right? Who's going to be the person to come in and say, we've brought in consultants, we've brought in all this stuff, and we've taken an inventory of what this area has and what it needs to get to that next level. That's also destination development. Wow. The third part of destination development too is really working with our economic development agencies in the area and ensuring that, if there's something that's going to impact the travel sector, we would love to be at the table, provide input, provide assistance, and again, just be a resource, right?
Yes.
So those are kind of our main three
Wow.
pillars in that destination.
I'm sorry, I got to tell you, when I think about the Visitors Bureau, I think go there and get a map
Yeah.
so you know where to go. So you just really opened up my eyes to all the different aspects of that and how intense and how involved it is.
Yeah.
So that's very cool. Continue.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So, and the main goal, right, is to get people who don't live here to come here.
Yes.
And spend money and stay overnight into our hotels and understand, what this area has to offer from a visitor, from a resident, from an employer, all of that.
Sure.
The biggest thing too is, I'm a big data guy, and I have to remind myself not to just give you in 2024 we saw X amount of visitors and they stood at, I'll put it into perspective, right?
Yes.
For somebody who comes into the area and stays overnight, we estimate very conservatively that person is going to spend approximately $165 per night.
Sure.
And that counts per person. So if a family of 4 comes in for a weekend, it's $1,300 directly into the economy. And
Right.
they're spending that at hotels, at restaurants, at gas stations and boutiques and entertainment like Sperry's or the Wrigley
I love
or
Sperry's.
or Thumbcoast theaters or like
Oh, I love Thumbcoast.
yeah.
Oh, you probably know that already.
So the grand scheme of things, right, is when we bring people into the area, they're going to spend their hard-earned money on things that
Yes.
directly affect our quality of life. And the next thing I want to say too, in putting into perspective, that's $165 per person per day, right? It equates to about $400 million a year, right?
Okay.
That's $400 million that we as residents of this destination would have to spend in order to maintain the
yes.
same quality of life.
That makes so much sense.
And the big picture there, right, is the restaurants, the attractions, the boutiques, we all love to support them because we know them. They're our
Yes,
friends. We go to church with them. We're
absolutely.
in Lions Club, or our kids play ball together,
Yep.
right?
Or we do theater together.
Or we do theater together. Yeah, exactly. So the flip side to that is, right, we also have limitations on what we can do, right?
Absolutely.
And we know so many people, so we can't spend all of our money at one spot because our other friend owns another restaurant.
Yeah.
So
It's so true.
the visitor economy is really kind of an even keel to maintain the things that we like to have in an area. So that's really the big picture thing of what we do, and everything starts with a visit. We're part of an organization called Destinations International, and it's all sorts of destination marketing organizations around the world are part of this organization. And they've done some really, really forward-thinking work that it really starts with a visit. You get somebody to come into an area
Yes.
on vacation, or they're visiting a friend or a relative, or they're here on a conference, or or their kids are on a softball tournament and they're just coming to check the area out. You get them to understand, who we are as an area through the visitor economy lens, and now they're coming back regularly. Well, now all of a sudden they want to have a second home and they want to,
Sure.
or relocate here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Eventually you turn that visitor into a resident, and they're a tax-paying resident in the area. And from there, maybe they are, an owner of a company, or they own a small business, and they say, you know what, I'm sick and tired of going to Texas or Florida or North Carolina every other week to, handle my business. We're going to move our company here, or we're going to start a business here, or so I think the big picture is, if you build a place where people want to visit, you'll build a place where people want to live. And if you build a place where people want to live, you'll build a place where businesses must be. And if you build a place where businesses must be, then you build a place where people want to work, and so on and so forth, and round and round and round the circle goes. So there's so many different organizations in an area that are all contributing to the cycle of the economy. And for us, it's just really important that, our focus is on driving people here to get them to stay in hotels, spend money in our visitor economy.
Yes.
And then ultimately later on, maybe that turns them into a resident.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because you became a resident.
Yeah. Yeah,
which
and
is
I'm
which
the
is
perfect example, right? I
absolutely
grew up here as a visitor, right? We would
yes,
come visit family, um, not often staying in hotels, but most of the time experiencing what amenities we had to offer
sure,
here on the coast, right? And I've seen the progression from, you know, 2008 to where we are now through
yeah,
the lens of a visitor, then ultimately coming over and
yeah,
becoming a resident, right? So yeah, I never really grasped that
yeah.
concept on myself, but yeah, I am kind of the perfect example.
I mean, and what you're saying is so true because there's so many different ways and activities and things that can draw people into an area. Like I mentioned before, I'm a theater girl, so I do a
Mm-hmm.
lot of theater in the area. When I moved here, because I'm also originally from Metro Detroit, I'm back in the Metro Detroit area currently, but I lived here for several years. And what really got me involved in getting to know all the people who own the businesses was were the people that I met through theater.
Mm-hmm.
And now because I do theater so often, I have friends of course in the Metro Detroit area who what show are you doing next? And we make a day out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And now we plan to come up here to see shows that I'm not in.
Yeah.
And we spend money. There's certain restaurants that we like and certain businesses that we like. So
Mm-hmm.
what you're saying is so true, and just continuing to expand that and
Yeah.
evolve that and bring awareness. Like I've seen the turn in specifically in Marine City since things have been kind of expanding there. You've seen how it's come alive, especially in the summer. So it's
Yeah.
it's very cool.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Like visitor economies often move hand in hand with quality of place, quality of life development,
Yes.
right? So it's a cool thing to be a part of because we really, you know, a lot of times we're not the catalyst or we're not the person who starts that conversation,
Sure.
but we're always at the table to say, hey, how's this going to affect visitors? It's going to affect X or Y or,
Yeah.
so it is really cool work. And the things that, I have to tell myself and sometimes I have to remind like everybody in our office is like our line of work is everybody else's fun. Like we take it so seriously. We want to bring in conferences. We want to bring in sporting events or motor coach tours or, we're working really, really hard to do all that stuff. And sometimes we have to take a step back and be like, me especially, and my team is going to be like, yeah, he's the guy that needs to do this the most. But sometimes we got to take a step back and be like, hey, we're here to help people and really make their trip for whatever reason they're here, if it's work or if it's play, to be as
Sure.
enjoyable as it can be, right?
Yeah.
So it's a cool, unique job, and it really is like I immediately fell in love with the work, right? How can you not?
How can you not?
And coming over and being a part of such an amazing team, moving over here, it was like everybody else has that same mindset, right? They love where
Beautiful.
they live, they love what they do,
Mm-hmm.
and they genuinely have a passion and a care for this destination, and it
Yeah.
shows in everything that we do. So I'm just really blessed to have a team like that because
Yes.
that's not always the case,
Right.
And I'm just really thankful and really blessed for that. So
Because in any industry, it can just become work. I got to get this done. But to
mhm,
know people are connected to what they do and they're passionate
mhm,
about it, it makes even what you do more enjoyable.
absolutely,
So that's fabulous. I know you mentioned, and this is something that I hadn't really thought about before, but conventions. And
mhm,
this would be a fabulous place, for
mhm,
for a business to come because it's not overly big. So
mhm,
when you're trainings or whatever you're doing
yeah,
during the day is over, things are so accessible, and I just feel like this would be a great place to have a conference or a convention that I never really thought about before.
yeah.
How much, like, have you seen an increase in the conference business over the past few years?
So COVID was really kind of a weird thing,
Of
right?
course.
So it was frowned upon and borderline like legal to
Sure.
meet in big spaces, which kind of just deflated the conference industry, right?
Of course.
But since folks understand the importance of meeting in the same room, right?
Yeah.
So we're seeing, we had a really big year right after COVID to,
Nice.
kind of even everything out. And we're seeing a steady increase year over year in conference room nights and things like that. So we are really looking at, through the lens again of the visitor economy. How many rooms, how many room nights do
Sure.
those conferences bring in? And being in the Blue Water Convention Center, being in the thick of it all, is a really great opportunity for us. And we work hand in hand with the convention center. So we don't run the convention center. Our responsibility is purely to be the sales and marketing wing to bring in conventions, corporate meetings, sporting events that may be able to fit in that location. And certainly we service our entire destination and, what we're bringing things in for, and ultimately leave that decision up to, the client, right?
Absolutely.
But we seem to really fall in well with state associations, having their, annual conference or semi-annual conference or things like that here in our area. And then we're looking to really get into that corporate market to bring, a few more eyes on our destination for, board retreats or corporate meetings or things like that. And one of the cool things that actually we just this year brought on an additional salesperson and added a department into our office, basically. So Tara Damchuk, who has been doing all of the sales work in our office for 10 years, has been just doing a phenomenal job, and we're to the point where we're growing, so we had to bring on an additional person.
Oh, great.
And that person is handling associations and corporate markets and meetings to try to bring them into the area, while Tara's going to focus on sports and motor coach.
Okay.
Yeah. So now we have, two folks out in those communities, and we brought Jessica Gibson on, who's she's, I think, 2 months into the job, and it's like she's been here for 10 years. Wow. It's awesome. Yeah. So we've got two really skilled sales folks in that realm constantly. I mean, they're on the phone all day. They're door knocking, trying to get things to happen in our region. So that's kind of our role in conferences and events, and especially in the sports world and motor coach world and corporate world, is we're the sales folks. We're trying to bring things into the area, and we've got a great team that we work with at the convention center and at the St. Clair Inn, who has some meeting space, and City Flats that has meeting space, and all these venues that can hold folks for different things.
Yes,
we work hand in hand with them, because ultimately, once they say, "Yeah, we're going to have it here," we hand it off to them, and they really have a lot of the purview there. So we got great relationships with those folks, and they have some really good team members as well. So just really happy to be in a community that emphasizes that, for sure.
That's fabulous. And the places that you mentioned are new venues or newly renovated venues that can accommodate all of these needs. So that's exciting.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, I want to ask a question, because I travel a lot.
Yeah.
And it's a question that I often ask when I land different places. How much of the economy in this thumb area is dependent upon tourism, if you know that?
I want to put it in perspective to the state. A lot of destinations in Michigan, we have an intrastate economy. So what that means is, we see a lot of folks who visit our destination. A lot of them live in the state of Michigan, and that's pretty common throughout the rest of the state and those other DMOs.
Because Michigan is a cool state.
Yeah, you got that right. But more importantly is there's not too much pass-through opportunity. So if you're going, there's really, very few opportunities to get from A to B and have to go through Michigan to get there, right? Canada is one of them. New York is another, going through Canada, things like that. But really we have a lot of shared interest in across the state that we're constantly pulling visitors from, Metro Detroit or Grand Rapids or Lansing and things like that. And the state sees the hospitality industry really as it's either the third or fourth largest industry in the state, right?
Wow.
So we have a very, very robust visitor economy. And if you think about, and hospitality it's not just hotels, or it's not just attractions. That's restaurants, that's, small businesses, things like that. So it's a very large part of our economy. If that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. No, absolutely. We talked a little before, but I remember being in Alaska and asking that question. It's like 90% of their
Yeah.
economy is based on that, and
Yeah.
you know how important it is, and just travel in general and seeing things. I'm very passionate about travel. Period. Whether it's in state, out of the country, just going to places that you've never been,
Yep.
experiencing things that you've never done, what it does to you as a person in general. I think it kind of opens you up, makes you a little more receptive, a little more open minded. Just causes a lot of different things to happen. So
Sorry, I just spilt some hot coffee on my hands.
Oh,
So
no.
that face was not that made.
Are
at
you okay?
Yeah,
No.
I'm good. I'm
Okay.
good. I'm all right. It's just funny.
But I think travel is so important, and I am always telling people you need to travel and you need to get out. And for those Michiganders who don't live specifically in this area, I think this is such a great place for you to come. And you know, you may not have to spend thousands of dollars to get on a cruise ship, which is, something that I enjoy. You might not be able to go out of the country, but you can drive down 94, or you can come down, and have a different experience. And I think it's so important for wholeness of individuals to have different experiences.
Well, and it's funny that you say something like that, because my wife and I were eating dinner. I think it was last week somewhere. It was that really nice day. And I hate that we have to say the nice day in May.
The nice day
right?
we had.
Yeah. No, it was beautiful outside. We were in St. Clair. We were in the plaza. There was a band playing. We were sitting outside eating dinner. And I look over to my wife and I said, this feels like we're on vacation.
Yes.
Like we had a stressful day. We both had stressful days at work. We didn't want to cook. Let's go out to eat. And we had another event to go to that night. And I'm like, we're sandwiched in between all this crazy busyness, right? And we're sitting here and I'm like, this feels like we're on vacation, right? Just the vibe of everything. And so point being is you don't have to, travel those far distances. Surely we encourage you to travel as much as you can. But, if you've got limited resources, or you want to have a trip with the family and you don't want to drive 6 hours.
Yes.
What I say about our area, especially in proximity to Metro Detroit, is that you can put the kids in the back of the van. You can turn a Disney movie on, and you can be in our destination before it's over.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. So it's a really great place to visit for sure. And everybody here is very visitor centered.
Yes.
And they have a very high appreciation for visitors. And, one of the things too that we focus on is reasons to come here, right? So we have all these resources at our disposal. We have a visitor guide that Katie, our marketing director, works very, very hard on year-round, right?
Okay.
Which it's very robust. It's got events. It's got things to do, places to go, all sorts of different cool stuff. I highly encourage anybody who sees a Thumbcoast, a Michigan's Thumbcoast guide out there, to pick it up and flip through it, because you're going to be amazed.
Wow.
On top of that, we've got our website, bluewater.org. And that has every event in our area that a visitor may want to attend.
Sure.
So throughout the year, there's about 500 events that happen in our destination. And they all at some point are on that website, right? On top of that, that website also has day trip itineraries for each of our communities, right?
Oh,
3-day
wow.
trip.
That's very cool.
All sorts of different stuff. And we've got about 9 communities along the coast, 9 or 10, that we display as premier visitation, right? And each of those communities, it's like kids, right? You love all of them, and they each have their own personality, right?
Yeah.
So to be able to advertise and display what each of those communities has on their own is great. And then you bring it into the big picture as a whole, right?
Yes.
As Michigan's Thumbcoast, one trip isn't going to do it.
It's not going to do it.
No,
Not
you're
at
gonna
all.
you're gonna have to make this a regular stop
Yes.
each year and go to each of these communities, or you're gonna have to take a couple of days and do the road trip from Algonac to Caseville or vice versa.
Right.
And putting that into perspective too, as residents, those resources are available to us, right? BlueWater.org is a great spot to say, it's Thursday night, we really don't have much going on. I don't feel like cooking. Where can we go eat, right?
Yeah.
Or it's Saturday, and the kids just got done with ball practice, and antsy. They want to get outside. What can we go do? All right, let's pull
Yes.
up an event. Let's go here, do that. So like the same mentality with a visitor can happen as a resident too. We're using these resources to
Sure.
develop, or you've got family coming into the area and you want to spend a day just visiting, but the next day, what are we going to do?
What are we going to do?
Go to bluewater.org, look at the events,
Oh.
figure all that out. So as much as we're a resource to visitors, I also want to really, really emphasize that we are just as big a resource to residents as well.
Yes, and
Yeah.
that's fabulous, and that's good for us to know,
Mm-hmm.
because we all have those moments. Man, what am I gonna do? There's nothing, and we're so quick to say there's nothing to do. There's nothing for me to do. Well, you got to research a little bit. You know, your Facebook friends may not know what to do, but we can find this information.
I do want to say one
Yeah.
more thing too. When it comes to conferences, events, and sporting events, everybody who lives in the area is part of something, right? If they're part of an association through work,
course.
or they're part of a church, or they're part of something that most likely has a big event once a year.
That's very true.
You can be a beacon for our area by helping bring that event to your backyard. It does two things. It showcases why you live here, right? It gives
Yeah.
all the really great things to do to the folks that you interact with all the time. And two, you don't got to travel 3 or 4 hours to go to this thing.
Exactly.
So contact our office, call our office, and we'll help you bring that business home, and we'll turn you into a beacon for our destination.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I know we're out of time, but I got to ask one more question.
Yeah, fire away.
If that's okay.
Yeah.
Here we are in Michigan. We live in this beautiful Blue Water area where the water is blue, because it might not be blue where you live. It's blue up here. But one of the things is we're hitting that season. We're hitting that summer season where all of these events. Can you give us just a few highlights of some of the events that happen either annually or maybe first time, whatever, in this area?
Yeah,
because it's going to get good.
So, oh boy, where do I start?
Boat week.
Yeah, you know what? That's a great place to start. So Port Huron's known for the Bayview to Mackinac sailboat race. We encourage everybody to check that out. July, I think 9th through 11th is the really peak time for that.
Yeah.
On top of that, you've got like Porch Fest up in Port Austin.
Oh.
There's Cheeseburger Festival up in Caseville.
Oh,
There's
I might need to see about that.
later in the year, there's Bach Fest in Lexington, and that's all about the arts. Let's see. There's the powerboat races in St. Clair at the end of July, which that is, if you've never seen that, that's a really cool thing to go. Just go hang out by the river and watch these powerboats zoom by at speeds you would never imagine. We're full of car shows. We're full of little, art shows here and there.
Yeah.
And then, on top of that, you've got all these events that are making upgrades and
Sure.
adding new things to make it worthwhile for people to come back to. So, I wish I could sit through and alphabetically go through the 300 events that we have left for the rest of the year, but the best place is bluewater.org. Check it out there.
Yeah.
Find something you like in a place that you want to visit and go check that event out.
Yeah. Michael, thank you so much. It's been
Yeah.
fabulous talking to you, not just about this area, which is a fabulous area and things to do here, but I also want people to walk away after they watch this knowing that, follow your passion. And wherever life takes you, when you have those moments where you feel derailed or you feel like something is intervening in your life, follow that, because it's going to lead you right to the place where you need to be. So thank you so much for sharing a little bit about yourself and so much about this area.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll have you on again because there's so much more to talk about.
I would love to be a part of another coastline conversation.
Yeah, I would love to have you. That
Awesome.
would be fabulous. And thank you all for joining us once again. I hope that you are hearing things that inspire you and that pique your interest about our fabulous area and bring you to the thumb. So once again, I'm Anita Newby, and thank you for joining us on Thumbcast.